We have just entered the pinnacle road to WrestleMania after last night's event. We are here. We are excited. And hi, all you BC WrestlePod nerds out there, and welcome to another rendition of Grapple Gurus. This time with the Wrestle Watch crew, your WWE PLE review squad here on the BC WrestlePod. This is our first WPLE review for 2025. Oh! And of course, we kick off with the bang with the Royal Rumble. I am one of your hosts, Mikey, and join me this morning / afternoon, depending on the time zone that you are currently in. Of course, you know, my NXT cohort and officially new to the WWE pay-per-view review squad. Finally, we've been trying to get him on one of these pay-per-view reviews for like over a year now, but Macho is in the house. Hello, Macho. I'm finally glad to have you for a WWE pay-per-view review.
How's everybody doing?
I think this is the first time you and I've been on in like a year, man. It's been a review.
Yeah, it was a SmackDown for Raw. Yeah, it's been a very long time. Exciting to get on here. Definitely. I mean, I've always wanted to jump on one of these and thought it was interesting. But did you typically do them on Mondays?
So technically, WWE reviews are Monday evenings, but because I will not be here tomorrow and won't be back until Wednesday due to teacher duties of chaperoning trips, we decided to do the review this morning.
I think the last time it was me and Luis is when we were crying over Survivor Series, right? When we were like, what in the hell just happened?
Yeah. Right? Well, I do remember my first review you were on. We were talking about main event Jey Uso and Roman Reigns stinking up the place in the main event.
Oh, that's right. God, that's SummerSlam. Oof. Well, speaking of which, you know, of catching up, the professor is also here, y'all. Hi, Professor.
Hi, everybody. This was a lot of stuff to talk about. I mean, I was excited for, I don't know, a good percentage of this. We'll talk this thing to death, I'm sure. I don't even, is controversy the right word or questionable? There's some things in there that I'm like, I don't know if it's controversial, but it's also like, that's a decision. You did that. Huh. It's not like I want to flip a table or anything, but it's definitely like, so I see pros and cons to some of this stuff. I feel like we have a lot more storytelling to do, which is good. And that's what Papa Helmsley likes, right? We have some stories to tell. And I kind of appreciate that nothing was wrapped up in a bow. Sometimes that's kind of the old trope, right? It's sort of, let's wrap this up neatly. And I kind of like that it's messy in a way, but I still have my question marks of like, wait, hang on, what are we doing? But we'll talk about that. And
then, of course, rounding out our, panel of 4 this morning / afternoon, newest member to the BC WrestlePod team and the WWE squad for both Raw, SmackDown, and the Mr. Kiltman42 on the internet. Hi, you Kilt. I kind of indoctrinated you because you done the last 2 Saturday night main event watch alongs with me, so you're in.
Yeah, dude, super villain chair. Look at that.
This is my James Bond villain chair. I absolutely love this. I've had this for almost a decade now. It's just because I'm like, but anywho, I'm excited to be here. We had in the pre-show before we went live, we talked, and I'm like, oh my god, we have so much fun today. We're gonna get into a lot of nitty gritty. I think there's a lot of stuff I want to go over with this Rumble, from set design to the matches themselves, as well as choices of who came out. This is going to be action packed.
I don't think this is the longest ramp they've had to the ring, but it's probably up there, right? That's a pretty good track they set up.
This is the longest non-WrestleMania ramp, because there was the longest one. It was when the Hardy Boys last came out to WrestleMania. From what I remember, it was like almost a story off the ground and just descended. It was like halfway through the field.
I appreciate that it's not that up ramp that we've seen wrestlers get hurt on, right? They're trying to run up that ramp, and then like Adam Cole, who blasted his leg on one, was that a year ago? And then some other folks where it's like, yeah, let's do this cool thing with the ramp. Just
no. Because it actually, if you watched it, you could see it came out and then it dog leg straight in. Because they wanted to kind of go up the middle of the field and get to where the ring is, which is probably around the 50. But they also dropped it. There was a small decline. And that was where I was concerned wrestlers were going to get hurt, was on that decline running in.
Right.
Because you're coming up from here, and then you have to kind of go down to here and then jump up. And I'm like, someone's going to like trip on something. And then they had the track for the camera on the outside. And I'm like, that's cool. That's not going to be utilized much, but that's cool.
I mean, I still have images of Ultimate Warrior doing a quarter mile as fast as he could and just gassing himself trying to get to the damn ring.
I remember an interview about that, who people were saying that, yeah, he would just book it so far in there. And then by the time he get into the ring, he's so damn tired.
Yeah.
It's like he can't perform like the 3 to 5 minutes he needs to perform. And I'm like, what the heck's going on here?
Thankfully, nobody got too gassed by it. I will admit though, just to get this out of the way, no R-Truth doing some silly spot this year, which was kind of weird. But we'll talk about that when we get to it, because we have 2 whole Rumbles and then 2 championship matches to get through. So we're going to start things off with what kicked off the show. Of course, you already know the drill. If you love what you see here, follow us on the social medias, buy some merch, all that link in the description below. All right, here we go. Let's do this. So we're going to start things off with the Women's Royal Rumble, which kicked off the show. I still don't understand why WWE won't let the Women's Rumble close the show, but I digress at this point. But let's get through it. I have interlaced entrants and everything. I have a whole section of my phone with notes.
Have you spend all night building images again?
Well, this one only took 20 minutes because the internet is a lovely place. And of course, I already scouted from yesterday which websites and Facebook pages had pictures for a majority of the stuff. But I also have my own notes to make sure that we get the order correct. So if you have not been to any of our other WWE Royal Rumble reviews, we spend a lot of time going over entrances and just talking about the match as a whole. So we're going to be spending a good chunk on the women's and the men's. So bear with us. We promise we will cover everything, but y'all need to be patient because 30 whole women and 30 whole men, 60 individuals in these Rumbles. So it's a lot to get through, but let's begin. So first off, we kick things off with number 1, which is the genius, the crazy person of the sky, however you want to, Oscar the Grouch for WWE with her trash can spots every year at Survivor Series. But we kick things off with Io Sky as entrant number 1. I will say from a little weird perspective, I love that they showed the country of origin flags for each of the talents, which I was like, there we go. The sports entertainment presentation is already off to a crazy start. So I love this. And then, of course, our entrant number 2, which is Miss Cry About It, Liv Morgan. So these two would start us off. They would go back and forth. 2 minutes pass by, and then we get entrant number 3, the Iron Woman of this match. For me personally, Miss Roxanne Perez, representing NXT, former NXT Women's Champion. We will talk about our current champion in a little bit down the line. I'm just going to say this here. Roxanne is my Iron Woman for me in this match personally. I was so happy of where she ended up by the end of this match. So again, we kept fighting. We keep fighting. Entrant number 4, Ms. Lyra Valkyria, all the way from Ireland. This crowd was dead for her entrance. I was mad that they weren't doing the woo part of her song. But you know what? By the end of it, Lyra won them over. So fantastic. Loved it. Just perfection. Number 5 is Chelsea Green. I do appreciate that the women, everybody who was champion came out with their championship belts in this one too. So this was fun. And then of course, I know some people aren't going to like her, but number 6, I was happy to see her in here. Miss B-Fab getting a spot in this. So keep going. Miss Ivy Nile. Number 8, Zoe Stark. God, I wish she picked a different color for her face paint because it looked like somebody smeared something unmentionable on her face. I'm not going to lie. Brown does not work as good face paint. I'm sorry. I love you, Zoe, but no. Queen, don't care. She is my queen. Ms. Lash Legend of NXT, standing at a 6'2" and just pure perfection. Love her. She's great. Okay, now let's all talk. Now we can all jump in because now we've gotten through like the first 9 individuals. At this point, we had our first elimination. B-Fab gets eliminated by Chelsea Green. We're going to do this in chunks. So, gentlemen, Io, Liv, Roxanne, Lyra, Chelsea, B-Fab, Ivy, Zoe, and Lash. And then B-Fab gets eliminated by Chelsea. I will call this like the first 25% of this match. Anybody have any thoughts?
Go Macho, go. Go Macho, go.
Yeah, I definitely have some thoughts on this. I love the idea of having Io and Liv off of their banger at Saturday Night's Main Event last month, coming in 1 and 2, almost like that's exactly what Rumbles do. They always give us the 1 and 2 mean something. It's never random, right? Like we've had Bryan and Punk start the Rumble. We've had people like start the Rumble that mattered. So I feel like that was great. I love the fact that they made a star tonight or last night in Roxanne. That was the objective. You could tell right off the bat that every year there's somebody in the Rumble that's picked where it's like, this person is who we're making. We're just going to have them do everything, go through to the end. And I got to say, because she's number 2, I feel like this is really like a great point to bring up. Roxanne was kind of the Liv Morgan of this match because Liv Morgan's been the Iron Woman for every single Royal Rumble to date. I mean, this one was the first time she played the real heel. She was kind of a heel when she was in the Riot Squad, but this was the first time where it felt like, oh yeah, this is great. And I loved all the selling that the women did. I got to say, what a pro move by Liv Morgan to hit Lyra and to get all the camera to pan over to the right side of the ring to save her from the wardrobe malfunction.
My god!
I think that's something like I don't like that the guys brought up the wardrobe malfunction, and I don't like the pushing to get people to woo for Lyra's entrance. I thought that was also because it just made it didn't make Lyra look good. Where it's like, you want to woo, don't you? And it's like, no, not really. It's like, I think you should woo. It's like, why? Why is this an interaction you're having? You're supposed to be putting her over. But I love the first quarter of this match.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up a few things. 2 things that I was going to say for sure. One, I think the Women's Rumble is better at making me believe that the first 2 or 3 can make it to the end, right? Because in the men's, it's so rare where they do this whole, they oversell it almost. So there's a part of me I saw Io and went, oh, Io, no. And then Liv, like, oh, are they going to go full? No, it's like that was in my brain all of a sudden. And then Roxanne, and actually it was Roxanne who's the one who kind of did it. Like, where was? So the storytelling of that was brilliant. I think something the women did overall, and we'll talk about this, is the women know how to lead the camera in a way where we see the men hit spots later on and look, cinematically, look at this great shot of Seth and Roman. Yeah. But the women just have a better way of like, you follow me, camera guy? Like they can move a thing and get the cameras. I don't know what it is. If they're just feeling it like an actor would. Like there's just some moments there where it's like, it's just way more fluid. I love these spots in here. I like B-Fab. B-Fab's growing on me. I get why the elimination happened, that's for sure. Chelsea just being Chelsea is fun. There's a moment where I forgot, this is going to sound horrible, I'm going to say this. I forgot the height of everybody. Oh, that's right. You're fine. Oh, wait. And just the scale and scope of it changed for me. And that just reminded me, oh, yeah, there's a whole range of talent and size and shape and people fighting in here. It was fun. I mean, the action of it was great, too.
I actually have to agree. The scaling of these competitors, the ladies have so many different sizes. I mentioned this in our group chat about how I didn't realize how tall Nia Jax was. And no, granted, this is later in the match, but still, it was like, this is amazing. And I even mentioned this as well during the match, was their stage presence or their ring awareness. Sorry, it's amazing. It is better than the men. I don't know what they do, but I know that they were making sure they weren't stepping on each other by accident. They were getting their spots. They were creating that cinematic. And it's just, this literally is probably, as you said, it should have been last. Because if this was the closer for the Rumble, it would have been a whole lot better. It's like, I don't know what else to say, because you all hit all the good points, especially with like Roxanne, who
I believe she did break the record, because I believe that record was with, I think Rhea currently held the record, and I think Roxanne beat it last night. Oh, you're right.
Bayley had it last year at 65 minutes, and Roxanne broke it with 67 minutes. I think it was like an hour and 7 minutes and 43 seconds. She says it in a promo after.
God.
It's mentioned to her that she got eliminated, and she jumps right into her heel character. And she's like, of course you want to focus on the elimination. Let's not focus on the fact that I just set a record in my second Rumble. And I was like, she's just brilliant.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Oh, absolutely. Which also, again, because Bayley and Roxanne have also been feuding too, which we'll talk about when we get towards the tail end of this match. I'm like, this is just going to add fire to their triple threat at Vengeance Day for NXT, which is going to be great. So let's keep things rolling, because Game Changer right here enters the ring. As soon as Bianca entered, I was like, okay, this is going to be amazing. Love the lime green, which is a very hard color to get right, but the EST is in the game. Then number 11, we have Miss Shayna Baszler. I want WWE to do something with Shayna, because Black and Gold takeover Shayna Baszler is sorely missed in this chat. And I need WWE to let her just decimate people's arms and things like that. Anyways, so number 11, so as soon as Shayna gets in, we do get another elimination. Ivy Nile does eliminate Lyra Valkyria, which I personally love because we're continuing to tell the story of, Ivy looking to be the first feud and first challenger to Lyra's Women's Intercontinental Championship, which I loved. We get the role model next in entrant number 12 with Bailey. Then, number 13. Can I just say, I was like, change her name to Sonya Blade because this was giving me Sonya Blade vibes, and I love this so much. Shout out to Sonya Deville. Her ring gear is always my favorite of the three of, Pure Fusion Collective because it's very pop culture, superhero, villainous inspired. Love to see it. Fantastic. So that was entrant number 13. Say what you will about number 14, but I love that the crowd loves her. I love her. Miss Maxine Dupree. I want to give her flowers because she had a big moment in this match. So, which we'll talk about right here. She got to eliminate her former best friend, Ivy Nile, in a very fun exchange. And I love that Ivy sold for her too. The reverse caterpillar is a thing of fun to watch. Is Maxine Dupree gonna end up being a world women's champion in this company? Maybe a mid-carder, but you know what? She continues to improve. She's always putting in the reps, and she's fantastic. I love her. Of course, right after this, though, is when Pure Fusion Collective eliminates her, but she got her moment to shine in the Rumble. Love you, Maxine. Number 15 was Naomi, but of course, number 16 is my girl, Miss Jada Parker from NXT. And all right, so let's time out here and let's talk about everything we had so far. But this moment right here got me together in the best way possible because, of course, we have all black excellence in the ring. Chelsea coming in, and then the girls just lay shot on Chelsea and she just falls to the floor.
I have yet to see Chelsea miss one of these comedy spots. Am I crazy? They seem to land. She's just so good at being in the moment. They do in the middle of a rumble. They do a whole good 30-second spot. That's brilliant. The timing of this was so good.
I love this. I knew right away as soon as I saw these four women not just throwing hands, I was like, yeah, they're in there doing the Sasha and Bianca thing. Look at what we're doing. I thought that was so cool. And then I was like, okay, before everybody gets all misty-eyed, here comes Chelsea, pulling the appropriate thing, at the right time. And I was like, here, this is perfect. This is one of those great spots. I love that this didn't lead to her elimination. I feel like there are points that we should bring up. One of them is Maxine Dupree. To me, I love the fact that she has become such a better wrestler ever since that troll on the sideline of her one match called her out and stuff, saying that she sucks. And ever since that happened, she has been just I feel like that lit a fire under her. She's just been better. I love the callback to Chad Gable with the straps. I thought that was really cool. Oh, don't forget where you came from. I think that is so cool because we never see anything like that. Women can't take their straps off, right? In a match. And she figured out a way to have gear made so she can do it. And then normal straps for anybody else would lead to a suplex. Hers leads to the reverse worm or the caterpillar. And it's brilliant. I love it. Agree with you, Mikey. The Ivy Nile thing I really hope it turns into a triple threat. We don't need another one-on-one. Have Maxine in there somehow. Maxine, Ivy, and Lyra. That's great for everybody. You have the fan favorite, the ring general, and then you have Ivy who can play the Chad Gable role because she's really solid. I thought this was really good. Bianca was amazing. Jada looked like she belonged. She was I should be on the main roster already. And Lash, I told you during the NXT show last week, my son is obsessed with her now. I think that's his first girl crush. He's just Lash is it. He's I didn't even know she was going to be in this. And I was like, buddy, I think this is our way of they're telling us the girls from NXT are coming up. They're not doing this anymore. They're not just going to have we're not getting Tori Wilsons and Maria Kanellis's. We're not getting those anymore. We'll get one or two surprises, but they have a stacked roster right now.
No, I agree. And I lost my entire train of thought because I was listening to the Maxine Dupree call outs for, where she came up with Chad Gable. And the one thing that I enjoyed was when Ivy came out and they started giving her the Kurt Angle special of "You Suck." That made me so, I don't know if it was happy, but it was that was so enjoyable for that moment. And then going back to this scene right here where Chelsea comes in, I had a feeling something was going to be thrown in there. like that, and it was a great spot. She's supposedly one of the most hated in the locker room or something of that nature. And it's like, all right, this works. This is great. And it kept the match flowing. And just this whole, I don't think we can talk any worse, like less about this match, because this is literally the pinnacle. Like, we have 3 great matches to go over, but this is like the best of the night, I think.
There's a moment that happens about 60 seconds after this that got me misty-eyed, but we'll talk about that when that's about to happen. I agree. This is so much fun. And again, the women are just better actors. They just stay in the moment longer. They don't check out. They could push that ego aside long enough to sell and lift everybody up. Like they just know how to do it.
Absolutely. And I love that Chelsea didn't immediately get thrown out after this moment too, but we're getting there. So let's continue on. So we left off with number 16, Jada Parker. Number 17 was Miss Piper Niven, who, accidentally ended up knocking Chelsea Green. I love this. Naomi quickly grabs Bianca, pulls her out of the way, which then allows Piper to accidentally knock Chelsea off the ring apron. Thus, Piper Niven, Chelsea Green's Secret Service agent, not accidentally knocking her out of the Rumble. Oh, this was fantastic. I love this little spot. This was funny and hilarious. So promptly after this, we do get number 18, which is Miss Natalia, who, at this point of the game, I never questioned her fashion choices. She, even on Total Divas, she had some weird fashion choices. But you know what? I will be remiss to say I have kind of missed her on my television screen. I'm not going to lie. I think Natty doesn't get a lot of the praise that she should, but that's neither here nor there. And of course, she's always wearing her leopard print. So go Natty. We love to see it. Listen, Rhea is mommy. This is muscle mommy for me. Number 19, freshly signed to WWE, Miss Jordan Grace, former TNA Knockout champion, TNA Knockout, TNA Digital Media champion, TNA Knockouts tag team champion. God, she is about to wreck this roster in the best way possible. I am so happy Jordan got to appear here. She has leaned up so much over the last couple of months. And I just want to talk about it. I couldn't find a picture, but she had one of my favorite spots. The Death Valley driver to Piper Niven. Holy Toledo. Girl is a former power lifter, bodybuilder. Sorry, I will forever love Jordan Grace. She can do no wrong in my eyes. I'm so happy to her finally being here in WWE.
She did it like it was nothing. It wasn't like John Cena selling, oh, you're heavy, which granted, he's older now. But there's still a sense of oh yeah, that, I could do that. Boom. And there's just this hush that happens as you watch it, huh? And then so good.
Oh, it was fantastic. And you know what? It never ceases to amaze me because this isn't the first time that I have seen Jordan lift someone of a larger frame is the nicest way of putting it. I mean, her match against Max the Impaler last year at Victory Road, in which she gave her a Grace driver, a full on, picked her up and picked Max up and then planted them with the Jordan driver is fantastic. It was so good. Also, I couldn't find a picture of this, but I love that people couldn't keep it together because it was supposed to be a serious moment, but Naomi and Jordan reunite, former TNA besties, when Trinity went over to TNA last year and actually fought Jordan for the title and lost the title to Jordan, which was great. And Bianca, little EST Bianca from NXT came out. She's like, hold up, grabs Jordan's hair, pulls her back. And she's like, what are we doing, Naomi? This is not your friend. I'm your friend. And then Naomi and Bianca afterwards are trying to keep it together because they're trying not to laugh on camera when this is happening. I'm just these girls have so much fun with all of it. That was
I don't want to cut you off, Mikey, but I'd love Kilt and Macho's opinions on this too. We all thought the bait and switch was going to be Jade, right? We thought it was going to be Jade breaking up Bianca and Naomi, or there was going to be some sort of angry thing or whatever, because we still don't know what happened to Jade. This was the moment I was speaking about, was sort of I know a little bit of TNA history. I don't know I should, but I try to keep up with what I can. Even I was oh, that's right in the chest. And I kind of had that moment of this isn't going to last too long, is it? And right at that moment, that hand comes in, and then we see the cracks. We see the initial oh, that's fun. That's a cool choice. I think that's going to be your last.
Which is great. Love to see it. So, Miss Jordan Grace, 19. Number 20 was Meechin. I felt so bad because Camera did not do her justice. She got swallowed up. crowd was like losing their mind with everything happening in the ring. But number 21, my girl, I've missed her so much. Miss number 21, Miss Alexa Bliss, with a tribute, of course, to Bray Wyatt, her ultimate friend, and you know what helped her when we were here when she was in this company. The last character we saw was Alexa Bliss coming under the tutelage of Bray Wyatt. I love the revamp to Lily the doll. I love it that it's like very Real Monsters-esque, which I love in the aesthetics and the design of it. This was the moment I cried. I will admit this on camera. I cried while watching it with my friend because I have missed Alexa so much. And yeah, the pop she got was well deserved. Miss Alexa, so good to be back. And then I felt bad because afterwards is number 22, which is Zelina, which is going to be really hard after, you know, the crowd popped so hard for Alexa. But of course, I love Zelina's entrance. Unfortunately, the internet did not have a picture. I'm like trying to figure out who she cosplaying as this year with the big metallic wings and everything, which I was like, oops, that's my fault. I was like, stupid Twitter only having the Speed Championship matches on Twitter, which we don't use anymore. So that's the thing.
Are they still doing that? That's still a thing over there?
Yeah, the Speed Champions happen every Wednesday. We still have men and women. So
I'm not faulting anyone. I would just love to maybe see it sometime. Maybe.
I know it's weird, but it is what it is. But then, for me personally, I can only speak on myself. Number 24 shocked the hell out of me because she was not on my radar. But the Chilean badass herself, Miss Stephanie Vaquer of NXT, making her Royal Rumble debut, and I'm just like, when she comes to this main roster, she is going to win this one year. I am pinning Stephanie to be a Royal Rumble winner in the near future. But the aura, her entrance, her aesthetic, her ring gear, this screams badass to me. Oh, I popped so hard for this. And then, of course, we were not done with the surprises because number 25, Miss Trish Stratus, like all the misogyny they put up with the bra and panty matches. They, you know, especially Mickey James putting up with the Piggy James storyline with Lay Cool, which is still not fun to talk about. But those three to me are pioneers that truly set women's wrestling. Be like, oh, damn, women's wrestling is actually more than bra and panties matches. And the fact that those generation of women had to take their own initiative to learn how to wrestle because nobody was coaching or teaching them because they weren't given a second thought. So Trish, Lita, you know, like Cool to a certain extent, Mickey James, Jacqueline, Shaniqua. These girls had to freaking learn on their own and, you know, learn from the men. They would ask the men to spar with them, train with them. And to see that Trish come this far and to be a legend and still be able to want to do this and get into the ring, Trish Stratus will forever be a hero to me. This is great. All right. So let's stop right here. So again, from Natalya all the way up to Trish, like we had Jordan, Alexa, Stephanie, like then the in-ring just kept getting nuts. So let's unpackage this section of the Rumble because this is where things got nuts because now everybody was fighting each other. Stephanie and Jordan were Bianca was throwing fools around, like so much to unpack.
Yeah, I felt like this whole spot here from Natalya on, I felt like was such a good transition to the match because it led to it felt like in the beginning it was like, all right, here's going to be your Iron Women. These are going to be the women that are making it to the end. The middle's going to be like, all right, let's just get some filler in here. Even though it was some big names, but it was like, you know, PFC and stuff like that. And they're not super popular. And Bayley, we knew she wasn't going to win again because she just won last year. And we know she's kind of feuding. Like she's trying to make Julia and trying to get Roxanne ready for the main roster. I feel like Natalya is this generation's Dean Malenko in the sense that people will go back and watch those stuff and they'll be like, damn, how did this guy not make it farther? But then you'll hear the crowd. You'll find out things about merch sales and how people treated him. And it was just like, yeah, people just didn't appreciate him. Like, you know,
absolutely. I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest pop he ever got was when he took off a lucha mask to surprise Jericho. That was the biggest pop he ever got in his entire career. And yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. Jordynne Grace is definitely, this is the second year in a row where they've decided, let's bring her in. Let's give her a massive spot. And here's one thing I want to say before I hand it over to you guys. I think that a notion that WWE fans don't know indie stars, don't know people from across the globe, that is gone. Look at the reaction Stephanie Vacour got. Like, they're not supposed to know Stephanie. That's what Vince has convinced people. Oh yeah, you're known here, but you're not known like in our place. And that's gone, because the reaction to Stephanie was loud. It was like, okay, like they know who you are. You know what I mean? And I don't know if AEW helped with her match with Mercedes. That could have benefited her. That could have been great. Trish Stratus coming in and having back-to-back bangers, so to speak. Her last match with Becky was the cage match. That was phenomenal. That I felt like that was the match of the year that year for the women. And then for her to like take a massive break and to come out for this was awesome for me, because my son was like, who's that? And I was able to explain everything Mikey explained. She went from bra and panties to being like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do what these guys do. And I want to change the culture of this and her. And when we get to number 30, I'm actually going to mention a name that nobody's talked about that I feel like should have been number 30. But I felt like this was a great way to be like, hey, here's like the legend. Here's the reason we're all here. And I love that. I thought it was great.
Go, Kiltman, go.
Okay, my turn. So yeah, I want to go back to one thing you said, Professor, about the Death Valley spot. That harkened to me the John Cena Big Show moment where it's like, okay, this person with this smaller frame just took on this huge frame and just dropped them. That was phenomenal. And I'm gonna touch on this in the men's rumble because there's two pops this night that they were amazing, but one was better than the other. And it's Alexa Bliss's pop and then one of the guys from the Rumble that I didn't think was going to show up. But then again, you say his name and he appears. So, but this, oh my God, going back to Trish Stratus, who literally, I remember her from my formative years, and it's I remember the bra and panty matches. I remember the misogyny of all the sweater puppies and all this yada yada yada, and I remember how very showing it was. We talk about that era. We're talking about the Godfather and the Ho Train, and which it was kind of funny, but whatever. And then the way it's progressed since then is phenomenal. We have these amazing female athletes who are just outperforming their male counterparts time and time again. And it's phenomenal what's coming it down to. And then going to what you said, Macho, about, oh God, I just lost my train of thought. It was a really good point about, all right, I'm done. I can't remember. I can't think of it. It's going to take me too long to remember.
Trains of thought here. I don't like doing this with sports, but for Trish, it's a little different. Could you imagine her now in her prime? If this was the ground she had, they wouldn't talk about anybody else.
This would be a whole different. This is actually this reminded me of what Macho said.
I got you. Here we go. Good job.
This would be a whole different ballpark if this was if the current atmosphere of women's wrestling was back in that day. And that was, as Macho had mentioned, was a very Vince mindset, because Vince tried to make it so that way there was no one else besides WWE. You need to know about WWE, and that's it. But now we know about, like, as you said, the average wrestler fans knows about NXT, TNA, AEW. They know about Lucha Underground. They know about all these other wrestling federations around the world, and they pay attention. And then you have these this not well known, but like really well known people coming in so that the average viewer or the average like casual wrestling fans like, oh, that's cool, this person's blah blah blah, and it just starts intercircling. That's the way it should be, and it's just so good.
Yeah, and I think we've gone full circle a little bit, right? There was this idea of we have to compete directly or to get our piece of the pie, and I think Macho's absolutely right. There were certain pockets of the crowd where you could tell, like, oh, all the folks up there know who Stephanie is. Oh, all the folks over there who know who Jordan Gray is, right? Which is kind of a cool thing. I think by this point I don't want to say it was madness, but it was like a controlled melee in there. They knew where the spots were. They knew what they were going. You saw them calling spots. And Natalia did a whole 30 seconds in the middle of there. And then Piper, and I'm forgetting, I got to pull back. Because like everyone was sort of like, hey, you ready? Bang, go. Like just quick spot here and there and there. It was that controlled chaos thing. And again, and we'll harp on this. I don't want to harp on this too much. The women are sort of, if we lift all of us up, we're all going to look good. Whereas the men have sort of hey, meet me where I'm at. Don't make me carry you. And there's just something to that shift. And this is like a sociology experiment. You see it in the ring happening right in front of you when you watch this, when we got to this point. Absolutely. Mikey, go get him.
Alrighty, so let's head into the home stretch because we only got 5 entrants left. And then we can talk about the final stretch of this whole entire match. Yes, I agree, Maria, that Death Valley Driver to Piper was amazing. It was so good. We talked about it earlier. So now let's get into the final stretch of things because after Trish Stratus, number 26 is La Cholita herself, who's Raquel Rodriguez. The only thing she was missing was like the Sharpie eyebrows. Listen, I went to school and I know many of Cholitas. Funny enough, they are the nicest people, but ride or die for live. So Raquel Rodriguez comes out at number 26. And then at number 27, well, actually, before this, I need this feud. This feud should be fun. Though I don't know if we're going to get it because we're also kind of putting Raquel and Liv in a tag team championship storyline with Bianca and Naomi too right now. So, but who knows? Plans can change. We have until April, so we'll see what happens with all of this. But number 27, y'all, all hail the queen. She is back. Miss Charlotte Flair has returned. Yes. And I, for one, have missed her presence. I will admit there was a period of time where I got sick of her always winning and always being in the main event championship scene. But that was the old me. That was that was a young, naive version of me. But I have missed Charlotte's in-ring presence. I've missed her character. And I could tell that she went through a lot because Homegirl was wearing what everybody with a bad ACL knee injury wears, which is that big, bulky, like brace. And so I could tell that she was still getting used to it because she was not walking as great as she can. But as soon as she got in that ring, all that went out the window. And I'm like, oh, Charlotte, I have missed you so much. And just when things couldn't get crazier, y'all, number 28, the madness herself, our current NXT Women's Champion, Miss Julia. I was like, oh, damn. I'm going to bring this up again during the Men's Rumble. But why is it that the NXT does not, or I don't know whether it's NXT's choice or main roster's choice, but how come we don't get any men's representation for NXT? We hardly ever do. Like, we don't. Like, Carmelo Hayes is probably one of the only few men from NXT when he was in NXT to pop into the Rumble. I was very surprised. No Oba, no Trick Williams. Like, at least those two, but I digress. We'll talk about it when we get to the men. But Julia's in here, and then the equalizer as soon as things happen. But Julia eliminates Jordan. I'm like, give me this feud. Like, now. Like, oh, please. Terror has arrived, y'all. This Nia
What
Jax,
is that photo? Look at that photo. That's a Mortal Kombat character. Damn.
she got treated like a Mortal Kombat character because she took out the whole roster pretty much in this match. But by the way, also, Nia Jax, love the hair, girl. I love the locks, love the hair. Giving me Palo Malo vibes. Love you. Anyways, number 29 is Nia Jax. And not on my bingo card, I will admit, number 30, Miss Nikki Bella. So I want to preface by saying this. The situation that she went through, nobody, man or woman, should ever go through that situation. But that is also a whole can of worms because more information is coming out. Like, we're learning crazy things about it. But this is not the platform to talk about it. I understand, she represents an era of wrestlers of a time gone by with the Divas era, but I understand. I appreciate the contributions during the Divas era. But if I'm going to pick a couple people to represent the Divas era, she would be on the lower end of my list. I'm going to just put it at that. With AJ and Caitlyn and, now known as Saraya, those would be my picks for that Divas era. And even towards the tail end of it, Alicia Fox, love you, girl. But yeah, so now Nikki gets into it. So let's talk about this final stretch and then let's debrief because this picture alone, like Nia Jax eliminates like 7 to 8 people at this point. And
I think it was 8. Wasn't that the number? Wasn't there some record thing there?
Like, so they credit her with. She gets. I was writing this down. So she gets credited with 9 eliminations, which is very weird because one of the eliminations she got credited for, someone else eliminated, which was Io. She got credited with that. But she eliminated Zelina, Trish, Bianca, Naomi, Liv, Raquel, Stephanie, and Nikki, and then Io. That's who she gets credited for eliminating. And it's crazy. To me, I thought this was great. I love the fact that we made it to the end it felt very 90s to have that many people in the ring at one time. I thought that was cool instead of just going right to the final four. And I want to say something that I feel like it's never brought up because I just don't think people really pay attention to it. The women's rumble is typically so well done and so well produced that they don't need the mini match for the last two people. Like if you look at the men's rumble for like the past, like whether it's Roman and Drew, whether it's Cody and Gunther.
That's a great point. Yeah.
The women don't need that. If you look at the eliminations when Becky eliminated Charlotte, like right away, like that's how it was. Like every time, the only women that I think had a mini, there was two Rumbles had a mini match, and that was Rhea and Liv, and then Bianca and Rhea. That's it. I think everybody else was just like, oh no, let's just get it over with. We did a great job. It's produced well. I really enjoyed most of this. I have no complaints. I think this was a 10 out of 10 match for me. I think when you talk about Nikki Bella, I feel like this is a prisoner of the moment thing because I made a video last week. You can Google it. Like it's straight up on Google. There are like 15 different articles of wrestling pundits, of wrestling fans. There are Reddit sites, Discord. Nobody liked this one. They thought she was a detriment to the business. I remember that when Charlotte came up to take the title from her, that's what it was. And we're not talking about Nikki Garcia. Okay. I feel like that's a big thing. We're talking about the character that we see on screen, Nikki Bella. She wasn't a good worker. She wasn't safe. Her in-ring awareness, it was brutal. Her forearm, she hurt a lot of girls with that forearm. She hurt her own sister with that forearm.
Yeah.
She was the original, like, she was like Nia. Nia got better, and she wasn't like that. So to bring her back, when you just accepted Victoria, you just brought her back into the fold. How do you not give that? And then here's another thing. You have a Pat McAfee spot this week with like Stephanie McMahon. How is Stephanie not the surprise entrance at the end of this?
I would have died.
So that would have been amazing. You have her come in, have her maybe throw out one of the favorites. Like, hey, I'm Stephanie and I'm a heel. Like, this is what I'm here to do. Said it herself. She hates being a babyface. Those are two names that I feel like would have been way better. There are people that are there that work in the company. Like, Victoria's back. They're talking about her being in the Hall of Fame this year. They just showed her on Monday Night Raw for Netflix.
I love that.
Better. And I feel like the whole Nikki Bella thing was like, oh yeah, she was on the red carpet. We got a reaction. A lot of people remember Total Divas. You know, that's what it was. But
I thought they were hinting at Stephanie getting involved. Didn't you guys? The whole pre-show, every now and then there was a HUD edit of Stephanie. But then when she gave the announcement at the top, it was just enough to me to be like, oh, maybe she's not involved, but she's there.
Right.
So there was a part of me that was, I didn't lean on it too much, but I was sort of like, oh, that would have been an interesting, that curveball would have been cool.
Kilt, you have a thought?
I do have a thought. So I remember seeing an interview with Triple H. It was last WrestleMania or the one before, one of the two, with him talking about Stephanie, how she has stepped away from the company and how she was like just basically a fan, a watcher. And then she came back for like the Hall of Famer, and then how she was surrounded by everybody. And she told Hunter, she's like, this is my family. This is where I belong. And so I think what they're doing is they're slowly easing her back into the company at her pace. So that way she feels comfortable and she's starting to get more back into it. And she might not come out and do a lot of very special events and very select things. That's my thought process on this. Because going from WrestleMania of, okay, she missed all this. And then seeing her come do the intro before the Women's Rumble. And then this is what I'm thinking it might lead up to. It's her slowly reintegrating into the company and into the business, but like at a very slow pace because of her personal issues with the not the community, but with everything that she's been through since she started with the company.
That's a hell of a last name to have right now. Over the last 2 years, right? Did you imagine her coming back as a heel manager?
That would be wild.
She is just as good, if not better, a Carnival Barker than her dad. Like she could work some folks up. That'd be incredible.
She is. She has so much. Yeah. It's. I think she would if she came back and started doing that and started kind of doing that toe to toe with as a Paul Heyman style heel manager on the women's side, and then maybe bark back and forth with some of the men, and kind of get back into that manager status. That would be phenomenal for her. I think she would excel at it.
And she could be strong, confident woman, not all this sexy time stuff that they threw at her, which was just absurd, right? Oh, that'd be wild.
Oh, yes, if she managed Jade,
Dude,
crazy.
That would be the best way to get her over. She doesn't. Now, Jade has her own aura. The one thing she's very good at is she can talk. She's very presentable. It's her in-ring ability that still needs a lot of work, which is why I think we'll talk about that later. I think that's why Trick hasn't been called up to the Rumble, because every match just gets worse and worse. And I think that it's glaring. And I think they're like, we're not putting you out there. You would look like a green guy out there.
That's very true. So to finish this off, Nia eliminates pretty much a good chunk of the field. We're left with our final three of Nia, Charlotte, and Roxanne. Nia gets thrown out. Roxanne tries to hold on for dear life, but cannot do it. And our winner of the 2025 Women's Royal Rumble is Charlotte Flair. She is going to WrestleMania 41 in Vegas. The reports have been out there since like November. I am 100% sure it is going to be Tiffany versus Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. And honestly, I am fine either way if Charlotte wins, or if this is a moment where she uses this story and this match to put over Tiffany. And then we can actually, this would be kind of smart too, use this feud with Charlotte being the heel to turn Tiffany into like pure baby face, because I think nobody can out heel Charlotte. I'm sorry. like the internet, as always, is having a cry about it. I am not disappointed. I am excited. Like, this was the feel good moment, and now just get her back into character. She's like, I am the queen. I am better than all these girls. Like, I am fine with all of this. So shout out to Charlotte. We loved it. Best. I mean, we haven't covered the other three matches, but this was my favorite match of the entire card. We beginning. So yeah, the Women's Rumble was a lot of fun. We talked about a lot of the key points. All right. So now let's get into what was sandwiched between the two Rumbles, because now let's talk about our first actual match, or for one of two championship matches. So we had a 2 out of 3 falls match between our champions of DIY taking on the challengers. Motor City Machine Guns got this spot because they pretty much earned the right to get a rematch against DIY by going through Los Garza and the Pretty Deadly. Like, they actually fought all the tag teams on SmackDown to get this rematch. And then when they made it a 2 out of 3 falls match, I was pumped. I was excited. I know what these two are capable of. So I will admit that it's definitely hard for any match to go after the Women's Rumble, but I was kind of disappointed. I was disappointed and I was let down. I felt this was more muted than I thought it should have been. And Motor City Machine Guns, 4 of you, I need to come here for real quick. Let's have a quick talk. We all know that y'all have gone balls to the walls. DIY, we have seen you go nutso during the Black and Gold takeover shows as a tag team, as singles wrestlers. Motor City Machine Guns, you have wrestled in TNA, but you have also held tag team championships across Japan, Mexico, around the world. And gentlemen, I have to say, I am disappointed. I was so bummed, man. I really wanted this match to be amazing and a barn burner, but it was not meant to be. And yeah, I was disappointed. Macho, I'm going to come to you first. I know we talked a little bit before going on air with all of this, but how did you feel about this 2 out of 3 falls?
Well, I mean, not to steal your thunder, Professor, because I think you want to bring it up, but the merry-go-round spot in the very beginning was really solid, right? And then from there, I think it was downhill. Like, was that really the spot of the night for them? I'm shocked, because I put in our chat, this is Johnny Takeover. Like, this is what he does, right? Like, I expected, like, I think I asked you guys, I said, how long before they're chanting, this is awesome, like the over-under? I don't even think we got to that point. I don't understand what happened here. These are 3 phenomenal superstars in Tommaso Ciampa, and I don't know, like, what happened. I mean, even Ciampa, who's not at the level athletically as the other guys, his technical ability is off the charts. So he's perfect with these guys. I don't understand. Watching this match, I was really confused, and we got the surprise at the end. I was like, thank God. Like, I was just like, thank you. because the whole time I kept thinking, I was like, what about these two? Like, yeah, that's what it was at. Like, we got two amazing, like, those should be their titles. Like, I don't understand what happened, why they're not being pushed. I don't get it. But credited for, working through his nose and taking that first crutch shot, because damn.
Freaking hell, man. That's terrifying. I don't know. I say this every so often. I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself. This was a SmackDown tag team title match. I could have watched this on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Right? And it felt, I don't want to say rushed, because it didn't feel rushed. And I don't want to, you never want to blame the crowd necessarily, but they didn't have any momentum in here. The Women's Rumble sets that huge bar, and that's great. And you never want to follow that, but we've seen them go. We know they have the rapport. They could call these spots, that they work really well together. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's odd, right? And you're right. Street Profits showing up was like, okay, now we got something to do. Okay.
It should have been a 2-on-2. It should have been a 3-team going at it. It should have been Street Profits, DIY, and Motor City Machine Guns. You said it slowed down. The merry-go-round was amazing. It was fast-paced, and then all of a sudden something just kind of slipped, whatever, and it slowed down so much. We mentioned this. We were talking about it, that people weren't paying attention to the match, and as soon as we were talking about that, I realized I wasn't paying attention to the match. I'm like, oh no, this is bad. Like, this should have been the first match. This could have set a better, I'm not saying it could have set a better tone than the Women's Rumble, because the Women's Rumble set an amazing tone. This it slowed down the tone. It kind of like ruined the mood almost. The women's match was so great by comparison that this should have gone before, so that way it could have built up.
Opened, yeah.
But it should have been opened up, and then the women's, or then Cody and whatever, or women going last. Either way, this was as good of a match as it was dead.
It's hard because they're working hard. I'm watching replays of it right now. Like, they're working.
They are doing.
And it's just hard to nail down exactly what's missing. The hesitation, like I'm seeing, and I'm still just in the clips I'm kind of looking at right here, is like, there's just this brief in between. I don't know what happened.
It's insane. It's like, and there was a few good spots. Like one of my favorite spots was the missed tag. Or not the missed tag, but the planned missed tag. That was a great thought, great spot, great situation. And then it was just very underwhelming. I think we had a similar in the last Saturday Night Main events.
Oh my!
This is gonna be good, and it's kind of like,
well, yeah. I think we all feel the same way. The Profits coming back definitely was the highlight to this. Not to say this was a bad match, but this probably could have been reserved for SmackDown, and it didn't feel like a pay-per-view match, so it's unfortunate. So, at this point, Macho, I know you gotta go, so I want to say thank you for being here. And then, the Professor and Kilt and I will cover the last two matches, but the next pay-per-view review will be on a Monday evening, so hopefully we won't have to worry about all that. So,
good seeing you again, man. One of these days we'll catch up.
Yeah, good seeing you guys. Thank you so much for letting me jump in here. Just want to say one thing: the Men's Rumble should have opened the show, and I did not enjoy the ladder match.
Okay. So, alrighty. Well,
the only thing I'll say is, like, I thought both men worked really well. They worked their ass off. I'm not saying anything about them. I just felt like the big spots, like they took away from the story. Like, it was almost like, let's just go as crazy as we can instead of adding to the we hate each other. And that's where I kind of like, I felt like they could have done a better job. And I don't know if Cody's hurt. I don't know, that seems to be circulating. That might be real, so we don't know. Hopefully he's not, because that man is needed for Mania. At this point, he's needed, especially if it's Jay, So, all right, guys, thank you so much, man. We'll see you next month.
All right. Bye.
Take care, man.
I'll see you later. And you are gone.
Good man.
Yes, he is. All right.
I like Macho's takes.
I do too. So
and it'll always be a question mark, right? Like some of these matches where we go, this should be the bear, and then it's sort of what's in between that kills you. I wonder if it's, and I don't want to talk this to death. We got other stuff to talk about. Is it because we've seen this too much? The Rumble, because the Women's Rumble was so good. I do agree with Kiltman. If this had kind of started, the crowd would have just been excited to be here, and then maybe you feed off that a little bit. This is hard. If it was a triple threat, first 1 to 3, that would have been a barn burner, right? That would have been nuts.
Because you have 6 people, you have the urgency of needing to get the pinfall as quickly as possible. But all to say is, in-ring wise wasn't bad. It's just that where it was placed, and then it was underwhelming, and just about a sorts of reasons. It seems that Profits are going to be next in line. I would not be surprised if we get a triple threat for these titles at Mania. So let's go. Let's do this. All right. So now the semi-main event of the Royal Rumble is this undisputed WWE Championship ladder match between Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. I'm going to just show the pictures. I'm going to admit the first 10 minutes of this match was just chaos. They went through the crowd. They were kind of just fighting. I think like 3 people lost their beers at some point because they got grabbed, because Cody and Kevin grabbed them and threw them at each other. And I'm like, anybody who knows, like, man, you're just going to be a sticky mess afterwards, because that
there goes a $12 beer.
For reals.
$30 beer, yeah.
I would have been so mad. I mean, I don't drink, but I would have been so mad. I'm like, I'm paying $20 for this beer.
There were some cool spots in this, but for a ladder match,
The first 10
with
minutes
Kevin Owens, like I want to see death. And we had one spot where I was like, oh, that was a murder.
So
Okay,
I will
fine.
say the last like minutes is where we saw depth, but up to this, it was just
Right.
lots of ladders, lots of things. But then this is where I feel like the match turned.
Right.
Well, first we had the MVP of the tiny
Tiny ladder is going to be a meme. This is going to happen. I'm sure it's going to happen.
It is the Hornswoggle ladder, as commentary called it. But that top picture of Kevin Owens going through like the very like V-shaped portion of the ladder is where we started getting into, oh, someone's about to die territory. Because then moments after, the way that Cody landed on that ladder right there in that bottom picture, I was like, oh no. I was like, those ladders are not fun to take. They hurt.
So I thought he was favoring his leg. Did he hurt his back? I'm not finding too many report things.
No, but I would feel like maybe Cody hurt his back in this point, because Kevin Owens is like, oh, you're going to do that to me? The way that Cody, well, both of them, because I remember texting in our group chat with this, Cody's back bounces off the ladder, but it looked like Kevin Owens went head into the rung of this ladder from the top turnbuckle onto the ladder. Then, of course, all the stuff happens where Kevin just downward spirals them and all. But I'm like, Sami Zayn, do something. But he chooses to, take care of Kevin Owens and be a concerned friend and everything, which is not enough because,
Man.
Go ahead.
This
right here. Sorry, this spot, they tried to make sure everything, is relatively safe for each other and all this. And then the one spot off of the corner turnbuckle ladder that looked like it just completely took out Cody.
Yeah.
And they're both on the ground, and they had to pause the entire match to figure out if, okay, is this actually a medical emergency or is this just the script playing out?
Sure.
And then this happens. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like,
well, and then afterwards too, Kevin Owens is bleeding, and it wasn't like a normal, like, oh, I'm gonna blade myself for effect. There was like a gash going across his face. I was just like, oh, God.
I'm like, how much actual damage is going on right now? And it's like, I know they're trying to actively hurt each other because that's part of their feud right now.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh God, like this is going to be a potential of, we've probably gone a little too far in this match. Let's never do this again. And now I saw moments where Cody's like looking back at Kevin to make sure he's actually okay, because he has. I think in the clarity of I'm celebrating, is he actually okay?
Yeah.
It's like he's still trying to be the friend, or at least the good person in this. And it's just like, okay, just leave. Let's everybody leave and clean up and just move on. It was a great ladder match. I kind of would have loved to see Bubba Ray come out because he was doing some of the pre-show. Just all of a sudden, here's Bubba Ray Dudley. You're doing here. It's so much there, and it's like, okay, this is great. Okay, now we can move on to whatever else is next.
So go ahead, Professor.
No, I did not dislike this match. I would really love to hear more of what Luis thought too. I didn't dislike this, where there was something here that was this was supposed to go that way, and there was just enough confusion and just enough conversations and melee and quiet whatever in between. There was a good 45 seconds of nothing while everyone's struggling, and Michael Cole and Wade are kind of riffing a little bit, talking about what's going on, and here's a replay, and here's this thing, oh my God, where they were genuinely checking on each other, and I get that. This is hard. I'm going to say this. I think Macho and I are kind of in agreement, and I'm wondering if this is what his take would be. I don't believe Cody has a nightmare. I just
No, he's
I
still...
don't believe him as the I'm angry, I'm gonna fight you in the streets guy. He's our American dream. Like that's what he is. So
we need him to go Homelander, Cody, like we've been wanting.
And until he goes, I'm actually a murderer, I hate you, I'm not going to believe I can be violent too. Look at me. So everything he does to Kevin, I don't want to say fake. That's the dirty word. I'm not saying it comes off as fake. It doesn't come off as Cody as pure
hatred,
right? He needs to play the Batman, I'm not going to murder anyone, right? That's his strength. So him doing the ultra violent thing, I just didn't match up the way it could have to me. And I think that might be my hook. I love them going into the crowd. I think if you're going to go into the crowd, you got to play with the crowd or else it doesn't really work. Throwing beers at each other, I have no problem with that. I think that's fun. Part of me, too, misses the Sammy Kevin versus Judgment Day violence, right? That, to me, is what they could have or might have wanted. I know you got new fans. I know you don't want to scare anybody. Fine. That Alabama Slam at the end, though, that's going to go down as legend forever. We're going to talk about that forever, right?
Oh, that was crazy.
That just happened. Not to go to production, the ladders they're using are different. These look more to me like aluminum ladders that are not OSHA standard, that are only made for wrestling purposes. They can hold your weight, but they will buckle. So climbing these ladders, they were terrified. Kevin and Cody did not like climbing these things. They were rickety all over the place. The ref jumps in to hold it for Cody at one point. If you look at that Alabama Slam, Kevin actually takes it perfectly. He just does that extra curl at the end to make it look terrifying. So it's super cool. It has a perfect moment for this thing. Some of those other spots, what's the word? We lost the storytelling. I think that's what Luis was going to jump on. Who am I doing this for thing? And I think that's why Sammy was there, but then they didn't pull the trigger on Sammy. So I'm just left with that question mark of like, why?
We're going to need to see what happens. Go ahead, Kill. You're muted, by the way.
What's funny is I keep muting myself on my headset and not on the stream. And so I muted myself on the stream, then I go to reach back to unmute myself from my mic. And it's like, I doubly muted myself. I'm smart. You mentioned there was an audible called. I think during that first pause, the one where they both hit hard on that ladder and they're both on the ground. And then Sammy came out. I think there was some spot that was supposed to happen there, but because there was so much going on and so much damage, it got changed. And then at the time, so
yeah, there's got to be, right? That was my impulse. Yeah.
Like there was something that just like either Cody was a little too hurt because he got up and it looked like in his shoulder there was a piece of metal.
Is that, you guys said that and I'm looking back trying to find it. Is it in his body?
So look right about here on his shoulder, like right above his shoulder blade on the left side. It looked like a cut, but it looked like there was something just like sticking out.
Oh, fucking hell.
And it's like, I was concerned because I'm sitting there, I'm trying to look and like, we're watching it and I'm like, I'm trying to see, give me a good angle of that shoulder. Because go from when Cody gets dropped on the corner, the ladder in the corner, and then go from there, because that's where I saw something. I saw something in his shoulder. And so I'm not sure if it's like, okay, well, there was some complicated.
Well, because this is aluminum. I mean, these are aluminum cans, right? Like I don't know. It just seems like there's spots that they wanted to do that they just didn't.
Right.
And it's not sloppy. I don't mean it like that, but sort of like, this isn't working. The ladder collapse. Move on to the next one. Or it's not going to work. Let me set it up in the corner. Okay, well then move on to the next one. Okay, I'm going to do this thing to you now because that's here. Yeah, and that's wrestling. That's fine.
Yeah. And it's a series, I think, of decisions they were trying to make that one thing happened and like, okay, we're doing an audible, we're fixing that. Okay, one thing else happened. And then too many things happened at one time. And they're like, okay, we need to do something to save this. And that's what ended up. I still liked the match. It was still good for me. But I think there was something that that either messed it up a little bit so they couldn't get all their good spots.
And we'll know this week, right? As they announce, oh, by the way, Kevin Owens this, so by Cody's hurt.
Yeah.
Or whatever else. Or we're going to find out in an interview 5 years from now. Sammy's going to go, by the way, I ran out there to do this. And then Wade Parrott told me that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's watching too much GCW. Something was missing for me, and I don't know what it was.
Yeah, so ultimately, I mean, I did like the spots, but I feel like for me, they took away from the story that we've been telling for the last like 2 or 3 months with all this. And yeah,
like I can believe Randy Orton kicking in your door and murdering you. I don't believe
Yes.
Cody Rhodes doing that.
No, he hasn't
And
given.
he hasn't been developed or built to do that.
No, he has not. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So I'll wait until we get to it because I think Cody will be facing whoever wins the Elimination Chamber. So because the winner of our Rumble, I think, is going after Gunther. Which, speaking of the men's Rumble, this is the last thing we got to talk about.
Here we go. Let's talk about it.
All right. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to try to break it off into chunks. We're just going to talk about people that were involved in this. And then we'll get to certain spots and also meme pictures that I have, which are fantastic. Love to see that. I see a lot of people not liking the men's Rumble, which is some good things, but I was
This
just like,
is one of the better Rumbles in the last 5 years I've consistently been watching.
So let's kick things off because at number 1 is the Hall of Famer himself, Mr. Rey Mysterio, out here looking like a superhero. Love to see that. And then I was shocked because number 2 is Mr. Penta El. I'm just like, cero miedo. I'm like, rocking the blue fit, which I'd love to see. I loved him so much.
We'll talk. I have opinions about him in this, but we'll talk about it.
Oh, I mean, I didn't include the picture, but you mean when he technically touched the ground?
You want to talk now, or you get through your block? We'll talk about it.
Okay, because it happened fairly early on. So
it happened during the first.
Let's talk about it now. Literally, it happened 2 minutes after this.
I loved the first 30 seconds of this standoff we're looking at right now. Why this ran 2 minutes was a mistake, right? We get it. We got it. Let's go. Penta, I felt, was kind of misused this whole Rumble. They wanted him to be involved and be there the longest. Sure, nobody knows how to work with Penta yet, other than probably Rey Mysterio.
Or Chad Gable. I'm going to put Chad
in there. Or Chad Gable.
Too.
Sure, Chad Gable, right? Nobody has that sort of, I'm going to work super fast, be there when I get there style that Penta kind of has. Folks that have been, the last few matches I've seen, right? As opposed to another promotion, folks knew that's where Penta's going to be, get there. They don't really have that sort of style at WWE. It's much more polished. It's much more, flowy in a very different way. I think Santos might have that a little bit, but I haven't seen the two of them go heads up yet, but I'd love to see that. I feel like they could. Penta was sort of had one or a few spots here, and then just kind of got stepped on in the turnbuckle for the rest of the night.
He was laying down in the corner for a good chunk of it after.
For a long time.
For a lot of it. You just see the blue just kind of pushed off. And then a couple of freaking Rikishi call outs, with the stink face. And then it just I thought he would have been better. They had utilized him a little bit more. And as you said, this whole 2 minute kind of just standing there and talking, it was great. But it's okay, we could have just shortened this a little bit and, kept going.
I feel like we misused a lot of our, what could potentially have been fun spots because once certain people got eliminated, then we kind of just were at a stalemate. So, I mean, 2 minutes after this, Penta in front of us on television definitely touched the floor, but WWE's like, oops. So we're going to try to make you believe. I was like, Penta, I love you.
That's why there was no replay. I think they were like, go to the booth, see if there's a replay. Is it 1 foot, 2 feet, 2 feet?
Don't show the replay because then people are going to call it out. So from here, we get number 3, Mr. Chaddington Gableton, Chad, whatever. Chad Gable, crowd giving him the Kurt Angle, you suck during it was hilarious, which was crazy. Then we get into Mello be balling, but he do be miss. Mello don't miss, but
he be losing a lot.
So number 4 is Carmelo Hayes. Number 5 is Mr. Santos Escobar. I need that poncho to be sold to me immediately.
That's a nice one. Yeah.
I mentioned that in our chat. I'm like, that's a poncho.
I miss that LWO serape they used to have. That thing was gorgeous.
Yes, I need this poncho / serape. I need it immediately. Oh, my little cannonball. I love you so much. I want good things for you. But number 6 is Otis. And then I feel like this is where things picked up because number 7 was Braun Breaker, aka Bronze, because of that spray tan still. Business picked up because then he started spearing everybody. And then Braun Breaker would be the one to eliminate his, rival from NXT, Carmelo Hayes. I need these two to run it back at some point. Give me Braun and Carmelo, their programs were great. Then this is where things got weird because initially we had Akira Tozawa come out at number 8, but then as Carmelo Hayes was leaving, he beat up Akira Tozawa. He got help to the back. We go to the gorilla position where, Akira is not cleared now to go out. And so we send out YouTuber and streamer iShow Speed, who, well, I mean, it is his hometown, so I guess. He gets into the ring. I'm not going to lie. He probably has my favorite spot from the beginnings of this match. Eats a spear from Braun, gets chucked out by Braun, popped by Otis. Otis is outside because he got eliminated. And Otis literally just back body drops him. And man, I still believe he was supposed to land on that table, but he bounced off the table onto the floor. And I was just like, okay, I will admit, I did get a chuckle out of that, but I was like, all right, we had our influencer of the match.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got that out of the way.
I don't fault anyone for making their money, and part of me is just jealous that I didn't do YouTube with my friends when I should have. Fine. Putting that,
You're
I'm
doing
a failure.
it now. I'm just kidding.
I'm right. Putting that aside, 25 million views. Anytime you could throw someone who has 25 million views like a bag of rocks, amazing. The fact that I told my son, like, hey, watch, Otis is going to catch him. And then he did it. And I was like, I got it.
And Otis is like, you can just see him like, kind of like, what am I doing with this? Chuck. And then just bounce and then hits the floor. And Michael and the guys are like, okay, cool. You good, bud? All right, sweet. We're going back to the match now. You good? Okay, cool. And they're just like,
all right, let's go back. So let's go back into it because now banger after banger, Mr. Sheamus. So Sheamus is at number 9. Jimmy Uso enters at number 10. 11 is Andrade. 12 is where shit hits the fan because the Samoan werewolf, Jacob Fatu, enters the ring and he begins to clear house. Future WrestleMania match right here, y'all.
Yep. It better be.
That would be a great match.
Oh, gosh. Yes. Give it to me right now.
That's a Hell in a Cell match if I ever saw it.
Oh, yes.
Oh, please. Like a real Hell in the Cell.
Yes.
Not this. Give me some Terry.
Give me a Bobby Lashley, like, spearing somebody through the cage Hell in a Cell match. God. Like, yes. Here we go. Ludwig Kaiser is number 13, and as soon as he got into the ring, he was quickly thrown out. He lasted 6 seconds.
And did you notice how quickly they went, he didn't break the record, we checked.
He was held by Santino, which is crazy.
And that was funny is I had mentioned this in our chat that someone was going to do that. There was, and I was hoping it would be Dominic or someone, one of the people I just can't stand. But it would have been hilarious if that was actually what happened. Because he comes out, I'm the best.
So,
it happened so fast. I had to happen to look away and check a notification and look back. He's walking back to Gorilla. I'm like,
yeah. The only way that record gets broken is if someone, instead of going under the ropes, someone tries to climb up the turnbuckle, jumps in, someone catches them, throws them back out. That's the only way it's ever going to get broken.
That would be hilarious. So, of course, as quickly as he gets out. Number 14 is The Miz. Number 15, though, say his name and he will appear. We believe in Joe Hendry, the TNA World Champion. Crowd loved it. I loved it. Will was melting in his seat at somewhere in the universe because this man, he loves this man both as a wrestler and he thinks he's fine. Anyways, so can I say Sheamus is my new bestie in all of this because Joe Hendry gets in the ring and he does the things, he's knocking people out. He does the "We Will Rock You" clamps. He hits the standing ovation on Miz. Jacob Fatu knocks him out. And I laughed so hard because you can hear, because the microphone picks this up. Sheamus gets in Jacob's face. He's like, what'd you do that for? I was enjoying that.
That was one of the things I really wanted to go over as soon as we got to this point. Because that was hilarious. You just see Sheamus, he's just
chilling in the corner, and he's participating along.
Yeah, let's do this. Yeah, I'm enjoying
Sheamus this. Is my hero. I love him so
and then it's just like, it's over?
Oh, he was so mad. I loved it. What'd you do that for? I was enjoying it.
And I want to go back to, sorry to interrupt you, Mikey. This is the pop that was one of the biggest pops of the night, but not as big as Alexa Bliss. Like,
right.
If you were to compare the two, Alexa coming back was bigger than Joe Hendry coming out, which I don't even think anybody had this on their wish list, but it's a phenomenal opportunity and I love it.
Yeah, I think I'm just a guy on a podcast. I think the 4 biggest pops of the night, 2 of them were Hendry, Grace, and Grace, who are sort of non-traditional WWE folks. I know Jordan was just signed, but sort of folks that have a aura outside of this universe. And then Charlotte and Alexa, right?
Right.
Awesome moment. I'm catching up on my Joe Hendry lore. I've been following it, of course, because of the internet, but so much fun. What a great swerve. I kind of wanted him a little bit longer in there.
Yeah.
You could have strung this along. He doesn't have to be your top 4 or 5, but you could have given him some run here.
Yeah,
I
you
will
could
say,
give him like 3 or 4 entries, not literally out before like the second one after him.
Well, let's talk about the person who threw him out, because number 16 is the OTC, the tribal chief, Mr. Roman Reigns, comes out. Joe Hendry hits a spear. He gets knocked out of the ring. Joe Hendry was in there for like 6 minutes, but man, he made the most of it. Loved it. Fantastic. And then Braun Breaker returns the favor and bro, this spear he hit to Roman was nuts. Look at this angle.
That angle is insane. I'm surprised that no one got injured in that spear, because it's just it looks so bad.
It was crazy. Unfortunately, Braun could not keep the tribal chief down, and he would be promptly eliminated a little bit shortly after this. And so, getting back into it, yes, this is going to be a match down the line. And this is some real family on family violence. This is crazy out here. So I just wanted to put this in here. My baby daddy is next. By the way, Drew McIntyre is going to have the best thumbnail for Royal Rumble, period. But number 17 is Drew McIntyre. And then, to a surprise to me, because I thought he was going to be out longer, number 18 is Finn Balor. Last we saw him, he got decimated in that street fight between him and Damian a couple weeks ago on Raw. So I'm kind of surprised. Also, shout out to the drone being involved in the shot too. The green little dot is the drone.
Their drone spots were really hilarious, because it's either in the camera or they had really good sweep that they were doing, and I loved their drone work. But just every so often, hey, I'm going to be in shot now.
The drones for the Royal Rumble were no backlash Puerto Rico, because Puerto Rico made those drone shots work and they did not get in the way.
I was going to say, I caught it once or twice and I didn't know what I was looking at. I was like, what the fuck is that? Oh, that's the...
At first, I thought, especially in this image, I thought it was like dead pixels on the backdrop. And they turned green. And it's like, oh man, they must have had a short somewhere. And then I saw it wiggle or move, and it's like, oh, it's the drone. What the hell?
See, someday they got to get the drone like through the ropes through a match and just see if they could like thread that needle between two wrestlers.
That would be amazing. So poor Finn Balor had to share his entrance with the drone, which was funny. Then number 19, we all hail the Sith Lord Shinsuke Nakamura, and which I'm so mad. I wanted him to last longer than he did. This is a former Royal Rumble winner. Yeah.
I have an opinion, but I want you to keep going. Keep going.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep going. So this was number 20 is Juicy Uzi himself. Yes, that is his social media handle, Mr. J. Main Event J. So the captain of the movement. So that's a good time. But then I also got shocked here because number 21, but the phenomenal one, Mr. Soccer Mom Haircut himself, AJ Styles, is back. Survivor of not one, but 2 home invasion robberies by 2 wrestlers within the last year.
Yeah, man, scrub your address, Jesus.
Oh my gosh, he looked fit in shape. Not like, is he on steroids like he was in his program with LA Knight last year?
Right.
But I'm happy AJ is back. Number 22 is the monster, Mr. Flabby himself, Braun Strowman. Love him, fantastic. He ends up being the one to eliminate Jacob Fatu, who then goes on the rampage. He almost hits Paul Heyman with the cover of the table as we see Paul running to the corner in this picture. So their business is not over with, which I'm kind of here for. But then we get the legendary stretch of the Rumble next. I cried a little bit. But John Cena is number 23. Punk is number 24. Just thumbnail.
So the fact that from this point on, there was like 10, all these Hall of Famers in the ring at one time. And I'm glad that Michael Cole kind of spoke to it. By the way, this will probably never happen again, right? At least to this degree.
So this was a money shot, but then it got crazier because shortly after this, before this, did I write it? No, I have it right. Yeah, 25. You have all these folks. Drew is still in at this point. Juicy Uzi is also running around. But then Seth Rollins comes out. He doesn't take his time to the ring like he normally does. He's just like, I'm about to kill some people. I have vengeance he has vengeance written on his face. And Dominic enters the ring.
Right.
And then he does get to eliminate some folks. So number 27 is the hobo hero himself, Mr. Sami Zayn. Look, Sammy can do no wrong in my eyes. I love Sami.
So at this moment, you have, I just had to freeze this frame. It's John Cena, Drew McIntyre, AJ Styles, Seth, CM Punk, Sami Zayn, and I'm missing somebody. Who am I missing? There's somebody else in there, but all of them.
Jay is also
sorry. All of them, that's 9 Hall of Famers right there.
That is a lot of star power right there.
Insane.
And then it gets even crazier because then Bisexual Undertaker has entered the chat.
Again, potential could be potential Hall of Famer as well.
One thing that kind of disappointed me about his entrance or his entry into this was Finn Balor still was in the match at this time. He'd already been eliminated, and that would have been hilarious just to have him just
one more time.
Wait, you broke up really heavy on my end. What'd you say?
I just said just one more time, having him have Damian Destiny and throw Finn out.
And I was like, let's do this. Chuck him out. We'll be happy, and it'll just be like, okay, little boy, you can go play over there. Thank you. Bye bye. The big boys are playing now, and when he entered, it was a great match, and he beat the crap out of Dom a few times. It was
Damian did something that's, I think, going to set him up for his WrestleMania opponent, potentially. So, Damian's in the ring. Then we get Mr. L.A. Knight. Yeah. He's looking a little bit darker than usual. So, I was like, did you call Braun Breaker's tan or spray tan first thing? I was like, is his hair dyed in a weird way, or it might just be the lighting? I think it's
a little bit. It looks like, I think he's doing a little bit of a beard job. That might be just me. I think Shinsuke and LA Knight are way too high. They needed to be in your first 6 or 7, in my opinion.
I'm straight up saying, I think you could have switched Santos and Andrade for LA Knight and Shinsuke. Santos and Andrade come out because I felt like we were missing some of the high flying action towards the tail end of this.
And we didn't take advantage of the high flying action at the beginning. You got Ray and Penta. All right, show me,
man. I was like,
this is sort of the meta thing I think we're building to too. Sadly, all your biggest talent and your Hall of Famers are coming in at the lull of the Rumble. And I get it. You're trying to get big names to keep momentum going. And now we kind of turn into a spot fest of you versus you, you versus you, you versus you. Just stalled out. The women's match, okay, they want their spot. Okay, and that's what kills the men's Rumble every single time. And that could be because it's, like I said, 10 Hall of Famers. And all of a sudden you got egos and everybody wants their thing. Fine. Nobody's lifting anyone up at this point. This is, I'm going to act like I'm knocked out. CM Punk lies on the floor. I'm going to act like I'm knocked out. Cena lies on the floor. So we can get Roman and Seth doing their thing. That kills me every time. You got to keep this melee going in some way. Or else it's not going to, you risk this.
Yeah. So as we continue on, friendly fire as Sami Zayn gets accidentally eliminated by Jey Uso, who is trying to get... Drew is laughing, but he's not laughing for long.
You didn't even say anything.
No, okay. Number 30 is Logan Paul, and I was by process of elimination. Once LA Knight came out at 29, I was like, okay, Logan hasn't come out yet. He's probably going to be number 30, which means no Randy Orton returning. So there goes 3 out of my 4. So Logan's in number 30. Damian Priest eliminates Drew McIntyre, and Drew has best thumbnail picture of the night.
He's gonna be memed forever.
His like Brutus, you've been training us. Kidding.
All my picks were wrong, and I like being wrong. I'm happy I'm wrong this time. I have a question mark, but I'm happy I'm wrong. It bothers me that I forgot Logan Paul was in this.
Well, let's get to him.
We'll get to him, I know, but it bothers me I forgot because myself, like other folks, were like, "Who's it gonna be?"
I forgot. Damn it.
Anyway,
but yeah, Drew McIntyre has the best thumbnail picture. I'm going to find a way to use you as a meme from now on. BC WrestlePod.
Me or him? Drew?
No, well, Drew.
We have to use that for something. When something goes wrong, it just pops up as Drew's face going, technical difficulties.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Or when we witness something like, what the just actually happened? Like,
sure, yeah.
Okay, so Drew, we're going to use you as a meme. I hope you're excited about it. So Logan Paul gets the Kofi Kingston spot because he gets it from the, a ring apron to the table. And then he goes and walks across the barricade. And I'm like, sir, he's trying to judge and jump on it. I'm like, sir, it is like less than 2 feet. It is actually a lot closer. Now, if you don't want to jump, I'm going to take it a chair, put it on the ground, walk across the chair, and then go over it. Because your feet have to touch the ground. The chair is keeping you from touching the ground. We literally had Mandy Rose use Otis as a bridge at 1 year during the Women's Rumble. Like, he caught her and then she used him as a bridge to get back into the Rumble. It was so much fun.
I think these are fun. I don't mind the floor's lava spots. They don't bother me. It just bothers me that it's.
I mean, that's very fair. So
I had to agree. There was just a quick aside for this part, that part specifically.
okay,
There was someone who was eliminated that was still around the ring. I think it was Drew McIntyre or someone that literally was standing like right there as he
you pushed him.
You could have just pushed him. It would have been a lot.
Or would have been what would have been even funnier is when Logan would have jumped across to the barricade like a random prime bottle from Drew gets thrown at him, and it's like
Someone threw a prime bottle. He caught it and drank it, but the camera cut away, and I was like,
boo.
come on.
I was like, as much as I don't like Logan, that actually would have been kind of funny to watch. But anyways, yes to everybody except for Logan Paul. Like,
Look at that. Yeah, 5 Hall of Famers just standing in the ring.
and horrible person. Anyways, I don't care. I will say this forever and a day. The man is athletic, but I do not like him. He has done too many bad things, especially to Japan and the island of Puerto Rico for me.
He's remarkably talented. He is a good professional wrestler.
But he is not a good person. So let's keep going.
Look at that camera shot.
Right? I was like, yes. Roman Reigns, like, I'm gonna get you in a second. And technically he did, but not by his own volition. So, well, okay, so CM Punk eliminates Roman and Seth. I was like, oh, cool, yes, amazing. Logan Paul eliminates CM Punk, and I yelled at my television.
That was just stupid.
I was pissed. I was like, are you kidding me? Logan eliminates Punk. That's some. And then we have and then we get for like the next, because then everybody decides to just lay down in the ring, because for the next 3 to 4 minutes, we get the Seth Rollins crash out tour.
Yeah.
Because then he just loses it. He curb stomps Roman. He begins a fist fight with Punk. Paul Heyman is yelling at him. Seth sticks the middle finger up at Paul, gives Roman Reigns another curb stomp on the stairs for good measure. Like, Seth Rollins has crashed out. And what I'm hoping is, I was like, I want to see him and Kevin Owens are the kings of I want them to team.
Ooh, that'd be crazy.
You're thinking KO and Seth freaking Rollins versus like what, Cody and Roman?
Not necessarily Cody, because Cody, I think, is going to be busy when Cena wins the Elimination Chamber, but we'll get to that at the end.
I mean, Sammy Jimmy or Sammy J.
Jay, I think, is going to be, depending on how the build goes, I think Jay is going to be busy with Gunther leading into Mania, because I think that's who he's going to choose. I think it's going to be Jay versus Gunther for the title, which we'll talk about when we get to the end. But yeah, Seth Rollins goes on a crash out tour. I want him and Kevin Owens to get together. And then maybe a Drew McIntyre too. That faction would be nuts.
Damn.
But anyways, John Cena's like, so Logan Paul at this point gets clotheslined from John Cena. And John Cena at this point of the match is like, oh, damn, we still got like 7 minutes left. Oh, shit. Here we go.
Look at that. I bet you're wondering how I got here. Face.
Yes. There's that. And it's my caption for this is when you wake up the next night and she wants to go for round 7 and you're still drunk as shit.
I did not get a Gatorade. So this was one end of the spectrum. So on one side of the ring, Logan Paul gets eliminated. John Cena's like, oh, damn, I got 7 more minutes of this. Yep. Jey Uso's just like, I'm about to win this whole thing. Holy crap, I didn't think they actually do it. And neither did we.
Yep. So funny.
This is great.
It's like, I did my job. So do you. Wait, why am I here?
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. This is not how it's supposed to go. And I want to speak to what Macho said before he had to bounce too. Like, for some reason, the men's every year, when we get down to the final 2, it's always like a miniature match. We get like a 6 to 7 minute fight. So Jay and John Cena, or John Cena, as Santino Marella has called him. Yeah, so Cena and Mr. Juicy Uzi over here are fighting. We get a mini match where they try to throw each other the ring. They both get on the apron. You know, we think Jay's going over. We think John's going over. Ultimately, Jay is able to push Cena down to the floor, where we get this epic meme face from Cena. And to my pleasant surprise, who is your 2025 Men's Royal Rumble winner. I did not hate this decision. I am actually happy that Jay wins, because I'm going to be honest, I love Jay. He was not in my Final 4 that I envisioned. And I'm pleasantly surprised that I got swerved.
Yeah, my Final 4 was way off. Close.
None of my Final 4 made it.
Oh, I mean, I don't even know if I have it up anymore because I got mad at it. Hang on.
I pull it off. Literally every time we were talking about it yesterday, I was pulling it up off the Instagram post that we had just so I could see it. I had Penta, Ray, John, and Drew was my Final 4.
Yeah. Professor, I
had Cena, Punk, Roman, Fatu, and LA Knight was my number 5. So I cheated. I threw an extra one in there.
I know my final four were Roman, Cena, Punk. He didn't come back, but I was expecting Randy Orton to come back.
So I know we're up against it because this is a longer one.
Yeah.
I have a question mark. My two big questions leaving this is I like Jay. I have no problem with Jay. I know some folks are like, what's he doing? It's like, Jay's great. Go watch Jay. It's kind of nice that he gets a WrestleMania redemption after the brothers match, which we all went, what? If it's Gunther, okay. And I'm glad that he gets the push. I'm interested in the story we're going to tell, like where we're going to go. So fine. What do you do with John Cena? Now, does he have more to do? Does he have to overcome even more to try and do this one last time arc? Is it something else that happens? Now, is it all on John Cena, Cody? Is that really what they wanted to do?
So here's
Go ahead.
let me put my booking hat on because I thought about this too. So here's what I think is going to happen because I did watch bits of the press conference too, and John Cena, talked about how he needs to main event WrestleMania since he's on this retirement tour. So here's where I think this men's Rumble has set up a majority of the participants. So here's what I think: either this week or next week, Jay is going to tell everybody he's going to be facing Gunther. So Jay is going to come after Gunther for that world heavyweight championship. So I think that's the plan. I think it's Jay versus Gunther for the title. And spoiler alert, I actually think Jay's walking out of Mania as the champion. But that changes as we get closer to it. So that means that with Jay choosing Gunther, that means that Cody's opponent will be determined by the winner of the Elimination Chamber. I think Cena wins the Elimination Chamber, and it's Cena versus Cody at Mania.
Oh, hey, that.
I think that Elimination Chamber match, though, is going to be crazy because I think it's going to be Punk, Cena, Seth, Roman, and two other folks. Like Randy Orton, I think, will be in that chamber match.
God.
That match would be stacked.
We run it. Everybody who was here in 2005, just go for it.
And Drew, actually, I think those are the six right there.
Sure.
Drew, Seth, Roman, Punk, Orton, and Cena. That's chamber.
And now now we got a heel turn Cody because you can't go face unless we're going to go face, which is possible.
See, I think what's going to happen, and here's what I hope. So, because Cena, I was reminded by the internet that Cena had said something to Cody that the audio from the camera didn't quite catch it, but upon replay, I was able to watch it, and somebody reminded me. When Cody won the title at Mania this past year, Cena told him, and the cameras didn't quite catch it, but somebody who was able to figure out what Cena said, because Cena told Cody is like, the longer every day you hold that championship, the heavier it's going to get. So what I'm hoping is that because now Cody's starting to feel the weight of what it truly means to be a WWE champion, and just to go through the list of his feuds and the opponents he's gone through, Lesnar kind of ate him up in the three matches that they had when Cody first got the title at Mania. Cody has gone through Lesnar before he was champion. Then he had to fight his way to face Roman. He had to fight The Rock. He had to fight the Bloodline, which includes Solo and Jacob Fatu, the Gorillas of Destiny. So I think Cena is going to truly put Cody through the paces because what better way to see if you can truly hold the weight of that championship by fighting somebody who has been doing that for 20 plus years in this company. What I would love to see though is that it becomes way too much and then he ends up fighting it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, again, I don't know. I'm intrigued and want to see. And I guess that's the best thing you can say. And I'm happy for Jay. He gets his moment. This is super cool. Again, it was a good Rumble. It was one of the better men's Rumbles we've seen. Not as fun. The women's was still way tighter, way more intriguing from time to time. They leaned too much on the stars and special spots, right? I think the pops for the men's are because we know their music, whereas with the women's don't, because all of it's just generic, whatever. And there's a few other superstars that's kind of a lull with that entrance and that thing. I think you're right. I mean, booking wise, we'll see. But again, don't forget The Rock's out there. The Rock wants what The Rock wants. Like there's some audibles and stuff out there that Triple H can change anytime. And again, we always wax poetic here, and the stuff that we come up with is fun to us. And if it makes sense, they're not going to do it. So that's hard to get married to anything.
Alrighty. So have you seen Braun Strowman get mad at Finn Balor? I haven't heard or seen any reports about that, though there is a current report out, and this is kind of in the same vein, that Drew McIntyre was mad backstage because apparently because according to reports, and this is Dave Meltzer, so I take it with a grain of salt. So anyways, the whole thing is that Drew got mad because apparently he got eliminated earlier than he was supposed to, and then he was yelling that somebody was caring more about getting their spots in than, telling stories in the ring. I personally think it's a work because I think Drew is not really mad at this, and we're going to see him get crazier and crazier as we get closer to Mania. Though I did not see anything about Braun Strowman getting mad at Finn Balor, because, they worked together before, and so it's not the crazy spot. And if I remember correctly, didn't Finn get eliminated before Braun was ever got into the ring? I don't know. Yeah, I think he was gone before Braun got in. So, I will
think
see.
so.
Yeah, so. If I am wrong, please correct me in the comments, whether live or later down the road, and I appreciate it. But that does bring us to the end of the Rumble. God, this was a 2-hour review. I try not to make it, but the Rumble is always going to be the longest because it's like hour and a half matches for the Rumbles, and then we had the 2 championship matches. Overall, I enjoyed my time with the Rumble.
Yeah.
But now, and we do seem to have some direction of where we're going for WrestleMania. The final stop is ultimately going to be Elimination Chamber to see who is going to earn the right to face the other champion.
If this is that Elimination Chamber that you mentioned, and it's just, here's 6 Hall of Famers, have at it, that's going to be wild.
Not to mention, we also have a women's chamber, too, to see who's going to
fight. Right, sure.
So here's my predictions, even though it's way too early to tell, because I think the next couple of weeks we're going to have qualifiers for the chamber to see who goes there to Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Anyways, so I think Cena wins the men's Rumble and he's going to go against Cody. And I'm pretty sure Charlotte's going to pick Tiffany since being the Rumble winner. That's the match we want to see.
Sure.
My winner for the women's Rumble, I think it's going to be Io, and Io versus Rhea will be at WrestleMania.
You mean Elimination Chamber?
No, Io will win the Elimination Chamber for the women and fight, and will go on to fight Rhea Ripley for her championship at Mania.
You said Rumble, and I went, wait, we just did the Rumble. What?
Sorry. Io wins the Elimination Chamber, and it's her versus at Las Vegas for WrestleMania.
That
match would tear the roof off. Well, there is no roof at the Vegas stadium, but you know what I mean.
That's fair. Yeah. No, and we'll see. And then of course it's always injuries, right? Let's see what the fallout from this thing is the next few days.
Hurt and injured, because that always derails WrestleMania plans as we have seen in the past. So I would like to thank the Professor and Kilt and Macho for being here for this 2-hour review. We promise that the next WWE pay-per-view review will not be as long.
Mini ladder.
So this is going to be an easier week on BC WrestlePod. There is no AEW review this week, but we will be back as we get ever so closer to Grand Slam Australia. As their big special show, we will have Marina Shafir defend her women's championship. So that is a match I'm really excited for. And of course, somehow we found a way to get Mr. Paul Walter Hausen, actor turned wrestler, to be fighting in this. It's going to be a great time. We're going to have a good fun. And then, of course, this Saturday, me and Adolfo will be doing our next MLW, watch along for Super Fight 6, which is going to be excited. And then we're going to wrap things up with Sunday with the WWE crew reviewing, the post-Rumble, Raw, and Smack. So it's going to be a fun week. But we got to get up on out of here. So thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod. Like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter. Also buy the merch. Of course, the rest of the BC WrestlePod family. Remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic. And more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's going to happen next time? Well, you're going to have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.